When STEM first got talked about at the site, they saw it very much as it was a standalone subject and it was taught in isolation, and they didn't really have a really good understanding of what it all meant, did they?
No.
And what it would mean for their teaching.
They believed that STEM was something that you did once a week in a timetabled slot and that you controlled the entire learning that was going to happen during that session.
And we very much believed that STEM was a methodology, and we wanted to open up all our classrooms and really get that idea that rather than having one STEM standalone lab that you'd go in for a couple of timetabled sessions a week, that it would actually be in your classroom every day and it would be really embraced and flow through the school. And we actually videoed students, didn't we? We worried that staff would discount what students actually felt. So as a really powerful thing, we actually videoed a group of students talking about their learning and how they didn't have a say in their learning and how they wanted to have a say in their learning. And we actually used that to actually play that back to staff. And for us, that was a real pivotal moment because they actually really sat on board then, didn't they? And sort of the penny dropped for them. You can almost see it throughout the session that we ran, and they started really listening on what can they do for their students, and it was how can they make the learning experience richer for their students became their focus.
That was definitely the key turning point for us. One of our teachers recently said to us that he no longer teaches the students, he facilitates their learning, and I think that is the biggest difference between STEM as being perceived as a standalone subject as opposed to a methodology.
Absolutely.
So he gets around the room more readily than what he's ever done before. He's not standing behind his desk, he's actually interacting and listening, and they're feeding back information about where they need to take their learning next.
It's much more teaching in partnership with the students, isn't it? So it's that idea that they're learning together. And our teachers have been really, really open as well. They've actually given themselves their own goals, which they've shared with students about their own learning. So that's been a really powerful thing, and something which I can't imagine ever happening when we first walked in.
No. Because of the student-led learning in the classroom, the students actually have choice over what they're doing and how they're doing it.
And where they're going to do it.
They're engaging in that learning more readily. They're not just sitting at their desk waiting to be told what to do next. We're seeing them have real ownership over their learning and the direction it's going in.
So student-led learning for us has really reduced those number of behaviour incidents, hasn't it?
Yes, it has.
Because their engagement levels are so high.
I think all of a sudden the teachers started to collaborate because the environment around them was changing and they had to go along with that flow, so they needed to start talking to each other about how this was going to work for them. They all of a sudden were going to get classrooms that were open and had flexible seating and also brought the outside inside. So for that reason, they needed to start talking about how is this going to work for us? How are we going to go forward with it?
Yeah. And I think the fact that we'd actually used those key teachers as early adopters, it was very different hearing it from your peer and working alongside. So in their team meetings, I know they spent a lot of time talking, and those people actually led those conversations about how pedagogy needed to change to actually embrace the new areas.
So they had a sense of safety around talking about what they were doing.
And they actually wanted to grow into those areas themselves, didn't they? They're actually, highly professional, and they wanted to do the best by their students, and they wanted to make the best use of the area. And yes, it did frighten them, didn't it? And I remember we've got a unit which is it houses our 5, 6 and 6, 7 class, and it's an open unit. And that actually caused quite a bit of concern for those teachers, wasn't it? Because they were worried about the noise, they were worried about behaviour impacting on the learning. And actually what we found is that behaviour issues have actually reduced because the students have so much ownership over their learning.
The changes we've seen in the teachers over the last year and a half have been amazing. They've come an extremely long way. We were met when we walked in the door with teachers that didn't want to share their practice and didn't want to collaborate and just wanted to control what was going on in their classroom, and we do not see that anymore.
No.
What we see is even after school you'll quite often hear the teachers having conversations about their STEM projects and what their kids are doing and where they can get materials to be able to facilitate those projects. So it's a constant discussion piece amongst staff and a real opening up of teacher practice.
So there's been that real deprivatisation and deep sharing amongst staff. And the way our building is now constructed is the classrooms are really, really open. So there are no door shuttings. And it's really actually got this whole school momentum going, hasn't it? And we've got the real strong recognition by staff that actually student behaviour issues actually drop when students get a control over their learning. And that's such a long leap they've made in that short period of time. And I think for us as site leaders, one of the things that has been really beneficial for us is the fact it's really promoted that sense of teamness and the idea that teachers, students, SSOs and community all are working together to make this happen. And that's been really powerful at our site.
It has changed our whole culture of our site.